for it. Says it's going live. Oh, and hello. We are live here with our 1 p.m. workshop, Stay True to You, featuring Edward Callahan and Monica Washington Padula. Thank you so much for both being here this afternoon at KeysFest, both in Kalamazoo and across the whole country. Thank you, Edward and Monica. I just want to say a few words before we begin today's session. So this is a workshop, and we have our stage chat available. Feel free to talk during the workshop. If you have questions, they can always pull them out of the chat as it's progressing and answer them when it's appropriate for the workshop. A couple other things too, like we have a full afternoon of master classes. So as students are hopping on to different events, make sure your name's in the session that you're clicking on. This has been the one glitch. Without taking too much more time, because this is not my presentation, I just want to give a big thank you to Monica Washington, who has been really integral in our community, our musical community, our community of Kalamazoo. She is a pianist, a saxophonist, a composer, a creative, an activist, and we had a short time at Western together, and I've always admired her artistry from afar, and now I get to work with it regularly. So thank you, Monica, for being here. And Edward, it's been a pleasure. I think everybody knows who you are at this point, but it's great to have straight up Kalamazoo right for KeysFest here. And thank you so much for this presentation. I look forward to observing it. And everybody have a great time watching this performance and workshop. Monica and Edward, take it away.
So Ed.
Okay.
Ed. Hey. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna start with is we want to discuss or give the audience a little background about who we are and everything. So we're gonna discuss like how did we get here? How are you and I sitting right here across from each other? How did this happen?
Oh.
So do you want to give your remembrance first?
Yeah, yes. I'll go first. So we both actually met at Western Michigan University, where we both were students in the piano department. At the time, I was studying with Dr. Roederer, and Monica was studying with Dr. Zagri. Mm-hmm. And I was a freshman, and I believe you may have been a junior when I came in, or
wait.
I'm 32.
When were you born? Okay, I was like, how you want to do it? Will you be 33 this year?
Yes.
Okay, so we're 2 years apart.
Okay.
So that's right.
Yeah. So I just remember going to Western, and I just remember seeing you around and just like playing all of these amazing pieces. This is the first person that I've heard play Scriabin. And so
Scriabin was so hard. That was Zagri. I never heard of Scriabin ever. And he was like, you should play Scriabin. I was like, I don't know, but if you think it's great, let's try it. So I didn't even know what I was doing. It was very difficult. I'll just leave it at that. But I played Scriabin Sonata No. 5, I believe it was.
Yes.
It was real interesting being in that piece and trying to interpret it and wonder what was going on and how I could demonstrate this. So Zagri did a good job helping me kind of interpret the different parts of it, because to me it was almost like abstract art. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to remember any of this.
Yes.
But it happened. So that's a testament to the brain. The brain is powerful.
Yes. So that's how we started, meeting. And then she also was in a trio with two of our other friends, Patricia and Simona.
Shout out.
Yeah. So they were in a trio, and sometimes I had the privilege to sub for Monica whenever she was away or whenever she was doing something else. So that's kind of how we met, and then we've just stayed in touch from there. And I've just always considered her like as a mentor to me, just watching her and just seeing her, so that's kind of how everything started. And I was doing this concert for the KeysFest, and then when I had the opportunity to do a session, I said, we have to work together. We have to make this happen. Somehow it is going to happen, and we're here. So that's my side.
Hello, Elle. I love it. Thank you so much. And also for the affirmations. You never know who is watching and gleaning inspiration from you, one thing I'm working to practice doing during this season of growing in my life is to tell people the impact that they're having on me as inspiration and growth. So I think we've done that for each other. This is coming like full circle, because as I was watching you, you know, I remember you being like kind of quiet and kind of like shy. And you just like, you know, I would walk off the stage and walk back to my seat and you'd be like, yep, that was good. And I was like, yes, you know. So you provided also that feeling of like, I'm not alone, and someone is seeing the hard work that I'm doing and acknowledging this is hard and you're doing it. So I appreciate, thank you. And then seeing you, you know, as I keep watching and as you are like stepping into yourself as an artist and all of these wonderful things that are coming to you, I just want to affirm that you deserve it. You deserve it. Hold on, they didn't put any tissues in here. What is that? Tissues. So note for next time, please put a box of tissues somewhere nearby.
Get some paper towel over here.
Okay, thank you for checking. Yeah, you know, we make a way. We make a way. So tissues next time. Now, and so as I'm watching you, it hit for me when you dropped that album. And, you know, I was always watching like your videos of you doing the thing in church. I've always admired your ability with ear, because I did not grow up understanding the world of ear. It was harder for me to learn to do things by ear. So I relied very heavily on reading. That's how my brain worked. I learned very well and quickly by reading. So I always admired that about you. And I'm like, yo, that's a whole skill. Valuable, right? And that's part of our oral and oral tradition as folks of African descent, is we pass on things. We pass on parts of our culture orally and orally. Yes. And so I was like, wow, you are really masterful in that. And so anyways, it's when you drop that classical album, I was like, first of all, yes, that you kept up with classical music, that you followed through on what you wanted to do, regardless of what any messages anyone might have inferred about your ability. And you also, and the fact that it went to number 1, I was like, okay, this is a huge shift. Like Eddie is doing this. So that's when I started like, share everything. And then when you were able to reach this marker of now you're back to play for the Gilmore, I just was just like, yes. And so I was just very much like very proud of your persistence and you doing what was for you to do. So thank you for that example. Thank you. So speaking of that, I just want to take a quick second and acknowledge another person that was an example in the School of Music. I don't know if you were there at the same time as our brother Martez. Were you there by that time? Okay. So Martez was another Black musician that was in the School of Music. The same time I went to do my graduate study, and we were office mates. And so we shared a GA office, and Martez was always a cool dude, always cool, always humble, always had that little smile, that hat, that suit, that blazer. And it was a blessing for us to, it was a blessing for me to just share space with him, me being in the classical program, him being in the jazz program, you know, but we could still share space, right? And so I just want to acknowledge and give a second to respect and honor him and the work that he's done and the encouragement that he's been to many of us, especially as Black musicians in the School of Music. So to the Record family, our thoughts are with you, and we really appreciate the gift of Martez. And so
Definitely.
That part.
Definitely.
So the live is not working for me or with me. So I'm going to move.
Let me see if we have any, so they can hear everyone. Okay, so we're good. So
I haven't seen any comments.
No comments yet.
I have it right here on my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it right here on my phone. So how we got there. So how did you get to Western? What led up to you getting into Western? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, I went to Kalamazoo Central for high school. And at the time, I had a piano teacher, and I was really considering going to college to study piano. And I really didn't have anyone talking to me about what colleges to go to. I didn't really have that talk about what the best schools were for music or anything like that. But being from Kalamazoo, a lot of people that I knew and my parents, everyone went to Western Michigan University or some school in Michigan. So I figured, that's where I would end up going. And at the time in 2006, the Kalamazoo Promise, I was actually the first class to receive the Kalamazoo Promise. So when I got that opportunity to get a full ride scholarship, I took that, instantly. And one of the amenities, to picking Western was free room and board.
Okay.
So I said, say no more, because I was ready to get out of the house and I was ready to be on my own. So I remember driving to the dorm room, packed all my stuff up. My parents didn't even come. I said, goodbye. I got it. I got it from here. And so that's what I did. I went to Western, and I did not know how amazing of a music school it is. And even when I'm living in New York, I tell people I went to Western, like, oh my gosh, that's a great music school. That's one of the best, and they mentioned all the professors that we've studied with. And so that's kind of how I got started there. And, I did the marching band there. I was in the drum line, the pep band, the gospel choir. So it was just a really cool place to start to find my identity.
Yes, thank you. A little bit about me. So I grew up studying piano, started at the age of 7. The story is repeated to me because I don't remember, but I don't know why it would not be true. But my godmother was a pianist and organist at Bethel Seventh-day Adventist Church, which was my home church growing up.
Oh, wow.
And so my mom said that one time I was like, I'm going to do that. I want to play, after watching her do all the roles she did as pianist and organist. So I started learning. I studied with Verna Dorian Holly, who is still teaching in Lansing, Michigan. Shout out to Miss Holly. Miss Holly, man, it's like the teacher you have during that foundational music learning time is so important. And Miss Holly was a Black teacher in Lansing. And so she had a wonderful studio, still keeps in touch with me to this day. Still will send me things like books and resources as a teacher. And she invested in me for life. And I was just like, wow, that's powerful. That was a model to me. So, you're there for your students during their study, but also, if they need any other help or assistance or mentorship throughout their life, you can still show up in those ways because of that relationship that's been built. So I appreciated her for that and appreciate her to this day. When I curated Reason Why We Sing, I was able to invite her and her ensemble. She has an ensemble that focuses on preserving the Negro spirituals, and they travel and perform. And so I remember listening to them as a child. So that was able to come full circle, and she brought the ensemble to Kalamazoo for Reason Why We Sing, and I got to perform Lift Every Voice and Sing with her on organ while she was on piano. So it's this powerful energy that we get to share. And as we grow, we have to remember those that have guided us and give shout outs to them and the impact on our life. I think that's really an offering to give back to them for what they've invested in us. And so are there any teachers that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Billy Netterwald. She was my first teacher, and she's still here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And she's the one that, taught me to improvise and taught me to use my emotions for my music.
Yes.
So, if I had a bad day, I would just come to the studio and be like, I had a bad day, and just, bang on the lower register. So
But you're not allowed to do it at home?
Right. So she was able to say, it's okay to express yourself. It's okay. And she would have me improvise. She would say, improvise about the clouds. And so I would come up here and just do something and improvise about a thunderstorm. And I would come down here. I'm 5, 6 years old, but she taught me about improvising and just making up your own sounds and composing. And so she was a really, 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 really big influence on me. Even like this past Christmas, you remember the little composer statues,
Yes. She I used to get those for SATs.
Yes. She sent me one of Chopin for Christmas. So
isn't that meaningful though? Yeah, I used to get those little music notes. Yes. Yo, this is so okay. I love it. So in college, I studied with Lori Sims. Then I studied with Steve Segre. Then I studied with Dr. Roederer in grad school. And a special note about Dr. Roederer. She was the first professor.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know? I thought we Okay. Yeah. So isn't that interesting how we ended up, under that guidance at different times? Dr. Roederer, Sylvia Roederer, did a wonderful job of modeling for me to put my thoughts into the music. What did I think about the music? What did I think about how a section should be played? And I would say, and I would talk through what I was thinking. And I didn't realize up until that time that I didn't know that I could have a say in the music I was playing. I didn't know I could have thoughts about my expression. I thought, I'm here, I'm listening to the teacher, they know better than I do.
Right.
So it was with Dr. Roederer that I really had the opportunity where she was like, well, what do you think? And I was just like, I get to tell you that? And she was like, well, try it both ways. And then she would tell me her idea. So at that time, I didn't know that the exchange happening between student and teacher could be an exchange, a respectful exchange of here's what I think, and then, here's what I think, or here's some context or some background. What do you think now? Right. That really came out, I think, when I was studying Alborada de Gracioso by Ravel. And so I just remember that piece being so hard for me because what the teachers were hearing and the professors were hearing, because they had experience with the song, I, as a new learner to that song, I didn't know what the expectation was with expression. And so I always did deal with some insecurity about that. And to this day, I started to say, listen, you've earned this master's in music performance. So how about you start asking yourself what you think? And that is how I pulled together the Haydn, the first movement of the Haydn for the Portage highlight of Black community leaders for the Black History Month program, which I interviewed with and that streamed last week. And so if anyone is interested, you can go to the City of Portage Black History Month program for 2021. And myself, along with other valuable Black community leaders, have held interviews hosted by Dr. Romeo Phillips. So we got to give a shout out to Dr. Phillips.
Yes.
So Dr. Phillips has been a mainstay in Black history and Black music history.
Definitely.
Dr. Phillips, every time I'm with him, I walk away knowing a whole lot of stuff I didn't know I was coming to hear. And I appreciate that. And I try to tell him every time. So again, looking at how our elders in the community who have had all of this experience look for ways to plug us in, yes. I want to give a nod to that. And that's a model for me as I continue to grow. When I get space, give space.
Yes.
So speaking of that, I know that we wanted to start off with a little something. So let's take a break from talking and do that now. So we are going to play Lift Every Voice and Sing. What do you know about Lift Every Voice and Sing? And I'm going to go grab the lyrics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Lift Every Voice and Sing, I always knew that as the Black national anthem. So sometimes, when I was, growing up in church as well, we would always sing that for different events. When I was working with the NAACP, we started with that. For Black History Month, that was always being played. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I knew from as a child about it. That's just what I always.
Yes, and my parents had me learn it from memory, so that at any cultural event, right, where Black history was a mainstay or we were celebrating Blackness, that was often a part of it, right? And so my parents had me memorize it so I could always play it. So what I'm playing today, even though I have the music, I'm only referencing this to help share some of the lyrics, but I learned that since I was a child. So, we have those, again, the oral and the oral transmission of music, which is very, very much part of our history. So I just want to read the middle section that stands out to me, which you will hear this B section as we play, where the music will change and have a little bit of a different tone and then go back to the beginning sounds that you recognize. The middle section, and this is written by James Weldon Johnson and his brother J. Rosamond Johnson. And in the middle of it, he says, sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. And one of my favorite lines is the second verse. When we get to the B section, he writes, "We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered." And finishes by saying, "Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast." Powerful prose. If you have not heard of this, or you don't know the words, or you only know the first verse, please go and read the rest of the words. So we're going to share this piece, and I'm excited for this because listen, let's go ahead and get into it.
Yes. Okay.
We got to put Bob on the glass on that one.
Nice.
That was good.
That was just a little improvisation. We just did it together off the top.
What they saying?
Do we hear? We have some comments. We love the background
Thank
stories.
you.
Both presenters, hometown heroes and sheroes.
Hey, let me check on that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Yes. So let's get back into and I got some things in here. When you are both, and I want to get back to the name of the name of our workshop is Stay True to You. Your culture is important. And the reason that is the title is because I know that I specifically want youth to have the inspiration, the education, and access to resources that they deserve, that we deserve, from wherever their journey starts, all the way through. Yes. And what I mean by that is I want us to be able to speak to the times that we have experienced and can now articulate and name. Yes. The barriers, the challenges, the being made to feel inferior because of our backgrounds, because of anti-Blackness, because of ideas and stereotypes about Black people and how that shows up in fine arts. Yes. And so we wanted to intentionally speak towards the youth and let them know that who you are and where you come from is always an important part to be celebrated, to be expressed. It is something you deserve to hold tightly. It is something you deserve to explore through your entire journey.
Yes. And
one thing that could be really helpful for that is, of course, having a supportive community. Your cultural community, your faith community is going to be very important, but also your educators, your teachers, your professors, those involved in your music education. That intentionality of making sure that you feel supported, that you feel seen, that is everything. And so my challenge to educators is to lean into whatever education you may need to unpack and unlearn stereotypes and bias, which we all have been exposed to, but that uniquely put children of color in the margins, children of different identities in the margins. And that is my challenge, is to lean into some education. So I've got some books here that I want to share, okay?
Yes.
Regardless of what your specialty is, say if you're a classical pianist or performer, or maybe you're jazz, or you're another facet of the fine arts, get some books in your library that reflect a diverse representation of the students you will come into contact with. So some things that I would suggest, or some things that I have that are very important to me, that I was here sharing with Ed yesterday. I have Lift Every Voice and Sing, one of the African-American hymnals. I have, this book was, it's on loan from Dr. Phillips, but it's called From Spirituals to Symphonies. It's by Helen Walker Hill, and this is about African-American women composers and their music. We'll be doing a couple of readings out of here today. And other books that intentionally target race and ethnicity, that target oppression towards marginalized groups. I just happened to pull a book that I'm working on now called Black in the Middle. And it's the voices of Black Midwesterners, giving personal narratives and exploring the various meanings of Blackness, and going through some of the larger metropolitan cities where Black people went to during Great Migration, and things like that. And also smaller cities and rural areas, because Blackness is not a monolith. We come from diverse places, diverse dialects, diverse faith backgrounds. And so acknowledging that, and this is also out, aside from those of African descent, those that are Latinx, those that are Middle Eastern, those are Pacific Islander, all of the marginalized groups, right? Native American. It's really important to make sure that we are also including them in their histories, and letting them tell their stories through expression of the arts. And so some of the ways that we can express that, for example, right? Let's go back to how we, Black cultural expression. Well, I keep going back to the church and the nightlife. Yes. So what we wear, right? How we express ourselves. Yes. For me, it's going to be, I want to wear something that makes me feel good, right? I'm going to want to wear something that's going to represent my cultural inspiration. So what's going on as fashion in my culture, I'm going to want to represent, right? Yes. What's going on in the liberation or movements I'm a part of as an activist, I'm going to want to represent that somewhere or somehow, right? Yes. So how you dress, hair, shoes, size, like what do you want to say about the influence of expression and how we do that, how there should be space made for that and acknowledged?
That is so good.
Come on.
Oh my gosh. Because, living in Harlem, New York, you see so much expression. You will see dashikis.
Okay.
You will see a lot, the African presence is really heavy there. You see the really cool hats, but you also see the guys in the Timberland boots. Yeah. You see the guys, with the Nike Tech stuff on. You see the Montclair coats. You see the you know, so
now I've been following your fashion profile, and I'm like, listen, Ed is like, I just left Louis Vuitton for the belt, and I'm just like, okay, like let me,
Fifth Avenue is definitely growing on me.
But it's the city trends for me. But it's also just this idea that we don't have to conform to a preset ideology of how we should look on stage.
Right.
We also don't have to conform to a stereotype of what we should look like or what we wear, right? Because we have many diverse forms of expression inside of our ethnic culture.
Yes.
So we want to encourage the youth. What makes you feel good? And what makes you feel good about yourself and your culture? Find a way to express that in your art. Even if it's what you wear, maybe it's choosing a composer from your ethnocultural background. Maybe it is composing or improvising or arranging a song that is a part of your cultural background and saying, hey, I have something that I want to play or premiere. And this is important, because it's representing myself and my background, and it matters. So we need to make space for that.
Yeah, last night I did an arrangement of Total Praise at the end of the concert.
Yes!
So everybody just went really crazy about that, because I forgot, I didn't have the program up in the beginning, so nobody really knew what I was playing.
Except the people that knew.
Right. So,
and Total Praise is a part of Black faith community standard. So when you think of a jazz standard or you think of classical standards, part of Black sacred music standards, one of those for many of us is Total Praise. Play a little bit how that starts.
Yeah.
Come on. Oh, yep, turn on the Bluetooth. So Total Praise is written by Richard Smallwood, who has written a lot of our gospel music that our choirs have sang. So how does that start for us? Come on. That's just the introduction. Come on.
C sharp, yeah. And you guys all know that, yeah. And then we can start it off.
I'm following, yes. Okay, I like that one. I should bring my saxophone.
Yeah. I like these tritones.
Come on. Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna go into more of Black sacred music in the end. But this, that's beautiful. What's the comment saying there?
They're learning a lot, enjoying the conversation. We love it.
Yes.
There are tissues outside the door.
They brought the tissues. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Can you go grab those?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Listen, Ed has been, there you go, so sweet in making sure that, Ed has just a great personality, and I really just want to shout out Mama Sonia and just really be like, Ed is a really good person and a joy to work with. And we just had Phil commented on our post from yesterday and was like, two of the greats. And we were like, but you as well, when you come with a good spirit and you come, bringing that good energy to the space, that matters. So I just want to shout that out.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So let's talk about some of the challenges, Ed. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, so do you feel that you can share some of the barriers? What are some of the things that you, what have you gone through to get here?
Oh my goodness. One of the the hardest things for me was being told that I was not a piano performance major.
Okay.
When I
so you were a major, but then someone told you that you essentially didn't have what it took.
Yes.
Okay.
So I had a professor, because I finished my degree in New York.
Okay.
And I had this professor who just, anything that I did, they just would not like it. They're like, they tried to change my major to, because this was actually my teacher at the time, my professor. So, they were like, we need to change your major to gospel studies. And I'm like,
oh.
I was like, I don't really know gospel performance. I said, well, I don't really need a degree in gospel performance.
You already got that.
I'm already, I do that every week.
I know, that's right.
So, we had so many issues with that. And there was just a lot of psychological things.
I believe you.
I would post on Facebook a lot, like, I can't wait to play at Carnegie Hall. And then the next day the teacher said, oh, you'll never play at Carnegie Hall. Mm-mm. You should just give that up right now. And it was, that's just how it was. And all the teachers, even the teachers would say, why is this person doing all of this to you? And some would say, well, maybe they just see your potential, and maybe they're just pushing you because they are from a Russian background. So they are a little tougher,
But that's where context comes into play. We've always been told, and it's been inferred, and we have to constantly work that out for ourselves. And that's where those community support come in. It's always been inferred that we're inferior.
Yes.
We are not smart enough. We can't understand well enough. We don't have the intellect, the ability. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's real important to me to counteract from jump with my students, my Black students, my other students of color, is to say, you have the ability.
Yes.
And if the way we're working doesn't work, I will find another way.
Right.
And always just telling them, you could do this. You can do this. And, help it to nurture them also. But you should never have to go through abuse, intimidation. You should never have to go through the things we're already dealing with in society in something close to you, like your profession. Yeah. And that's a good note. Is oftentimes in our lessons we're isolated, and a lot of times we'll go through things and we keep it to ourselves because of shame. We think that maybe they're right. Mm-hmm. And it's so important when something makes us feel, tune into your body. When something makes you, it hurts. Tell somebody, tell your mother, I'm just like, go to your mom will fix it. Listen, my mom would have been like, if I would have said some of the things I dealt with, my mom would have called. But you know what? Again, just encouraging the youth, but now we have social media. The youth are saying everything on social media that needs to be said. And I applaud and stand behind it.
Yes.
Because the instinct is to silence. But when something makes us uncomfortable, I think that we can lean into what is really being said here that I need to hear. And so,
that's good. That's really good. Yeah.
Is there anything else? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Like you said, when I have students as well, I let them know, like, oh my gosh, you are so amazing. It could be Three Blind Mice.
Listen,
I'm like,
you played that.
You or so, and they're like, look at me, like, really?
Right.
And I'm like, that reminds me of the Beethoven piece I'm working.
That's right.
And they are just like, okay, and that.
Yeah, and it's that making a connection. What I can do, you can do. Yep. And here's where I'm struggling. Sometimes I'll tell my students, like, I have to, the things I'm telling you to do, I also need to apply to myself.
Yep.
And actually, I get a lot of inspiration myself about how to open back up and practice through my teaching. And I'm like, why am I not doing what I'm telling them to do? I have an answer for them. I need to apply that to myself, right? The slow practice, the metronome, progress over perfection, just a little bit. Every little bit adds up. Those messages are messages that I needed.
Yeah.
That I had to get back to myself that I'm getting by giving them to my students. Some of the barriers when we talk about intersections. So intersections is where different marginalized identities will experience oppression through different identities at the same time. So for me, being an Afro-Indigenous, Black and Native American person of color, and then being a woman, okay? It's been, sometimes it's hard to unpack, because you had to acknowledge, yes, you did. I had to validate for myself. Yes, you did go through that. You did experience sexism. You did experience misogyny. You did experience people treating you like you were a threat. You did experience people being threatened in some way by you, even though I was a very pleasant, easygoing person.
Yes.
I'm like, y'all should have just done well with that, because now
Right.
I'm really fully into my role in community and in self.
Yeah.
And so it's just the things you can't touch on, but you feel them, right? Trusting your intuition and saying something's going on here, and I don't think that it's me, but I don't know how to address it, right? So for educators, especially if you are not a person of color, recognizing your impact, recognizing the dynamic that you have as an educator where this person is depending on, they're very vulnerable to the messages you give. They're very vulnerable to the demeanor and tone you set in the environment. And oftentimes, if something does happen that's off, they aren't going to feel comfortable coming to you to correct that. A lot of times that will become internalized and that will build up. So it's really important to consider that. And so I just want to say, and also thank the professors that did, look out, because I had a couple of my children in undergrad and grad school, right, together. And so looking out for those that understood what mothers would be up against as barriers. They made ways to put those barriers down for me, allowing me to take exams outside of the class time, allowing me extra time to turn in research projects.
Wow.
It was that. And a couple of those were men.
Wow.
So I just want to say, going through all those dynamics is so important, and making space for all students of all identities and looking at the intersections and making sure, is this person getting what they need as a young mother? Is this person getting what they need if they have a disability? Are they getting what they need if they learn a different way? Are they getting what they need? Just thinking through that, right? And we have a lot of responsibility as educators. This is not light stuff. So on that note,
Let's see if there's any comments.
Oh, go ahead. Check the comments.
So let's see. This is Real Talk. Edward, we'll see you at Carnegie Hall. It's
yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Monica and Edward are role models for our youth. Thank you for presenting today.
Yes,
thank you so much. That's Bridget from the Helen Fox Music.
Thank
you so much.
So Ed, speaking about Carnegie, let's pretend this is Carnegie right now. Let's pretend. No, you're gonna come over here. We're switching. We're going to how we do on the grand. I would like for you to present one of your Carnegie pieces. Okay. Let me move my things, and then after that, I will present one of mine.
Nice.
And tell us what you plan.
All right. So we are gonna switch on to the little classical, and I am going to play. I think I'm going to play my Chopin Etude, Opus 10, number 9. So I didn't play this one last night, but this is on my album, and it's just been one of my favorites. And this is actually a piece that Dr. Roederer taught me my first year at Western. She actually introduced me to the Chopin Etudes. So I know nothing about the Etudes until I got to Western. So we will dedicate this one to Dr. Roederer since she taught both of us.
Okay, everyone, hand claps and snaps. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Said Dr. Roederer is the best. That sounds great without the lid.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
All right, good. So we're good.
Good. Okay, y'all. So let's move on to
Your piece. It's your turn.
Yeah, I'm coming through. My mom said, "Great job." My mom on there. Okay, so I'm going to do the first movement of the sonata in G major with no repeats by Franz Joseph Haydn, and this is from the Hopkins collection number 16, number 27. I really like classical music that still has some Baroque flair, and so that's what I will present. And this piece uplifts me. That's why I chose it. You know, another thing is sometimes, you know, our teachers will say, play this, play that. But exploring music on your own and saying, oh, well, here's what I like. I want to do this one. That's something I try to give my students choices in. So I will have them listen to different videos on YouTube, or I will play snippets of things for them. And I'll say, well, what sounds good to you? What do you like? What would you be interested in doing? So that's what I got here. And I am playing with music because I don't have as much time these days to work on my memory. And I want to thank Dr. Roederer's spouse, Les Tung. I sat one time in an area class for piano performers, and I listened to Dr. Tung tell a student they apologized because they had music. They're like, I'm sorry, I don't know this from memory. And he said, if this is how you play your best, he said, then play with the music. And I never forgot that because I had never really felt that I was doing okay if I was not doing it from memory. But as someone that has a lot of slips and anxiety to work out with memory, thinking about making space for the way people learn differently and memorize differently is important. So I'm doing that for myself. And I like space because I need to lean into it. students, I suggest it. Really good for working through the little 16ths in the left hand, and then working through the little trills at the same time, and all the sweeps up and down, and that's what I love about this. Now let's move to another style, Edward. What else can we do today?
Let's see, what else do we want to do? You know what? Well, let's do a song. This is a song that I actually teach one of my students. He's 6, 7 years old.
Okay.
And I said, okay, this time, like you said, let's pick a song that you want to learn. You know, I'm not going to give you, we did Fur Elise, we did all the stuff I wanted him to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, what do you want to do? He says, I want to play Lil Nas X Old Town Road. And I said, okay, let's work that out. So we were able to use our ear, and I taught him, you know, let's start learning and developing that ear. So
can you do a demonstration of that? Because I haven't plucked out Old Town Road yet.
Yeah.
Now, my introduction to ear did come through YouTube. I was in the graduate school. I was supposed to be working on my graduate pieces. I'm in there on YouTube learning covers. And I actually started posting on my YouTube covers because that's actually how I developed my ear. I would listen to the song over and over, use the oral comp skills of listening to the bass line. What is the bass line doing? And then using the chord theory of what chord goes with this bass. Right. That was the way I had to learn ear. I didn't have the gift of being like, oh, I know what that is. Right. And then getting it. And I was like, oh, no, I need it to be shown in a different way. So again, making room for different learning abilities. So can you tell me what our chords are?
Yeah. So for this one, this is something that's simple that everybody can do.
Okay.
So it's literally just singular notes. Like, remember, this is for 6 years old, 5. If they just want to play something that they hear on the radio, that's cool. So we're starting on the E flat.
E flat.
And then we're just going, sorry. Is a B.
Thank you.
Everything else is going to be going down. It's going to be black keys.
Okay. Can I try?
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, so I'm going to
start on E flat.
E flat?
Yep. Yes. Yep. Yes.
So, I'm even like, okay, I have to use my ear, figure it out.
Exactly. Okay. So let's try that part together. If you're near a keyboard, you can get on and try that together. Okay, so we're going to start with the E flat. 1, 2, 3. One more time. And that's how you start. That's how you start. And then if you want to keep going, right? It's pretty much the same keys. It's just the rhythm is different. Right? It's a really good one to use for your ear.
Yeah.
Just to develop it and just to know what's going up, what's going down. So that's a really good piece for.
So just use like one melody or one line melody.
Yeah.
Let's switch that over to gospel. Okay. Ooh. Because gospel was one I struggled with. I could read all the hymns of the hymnal, but I had to have the organist and the bass player call out the chords because I had learned to read, so I knew chords. I knew all the chords. Right, in all keys. So once I knew all those chords, they were just like B flat. So I was like, this is the area. Then I learned about sevenths. Then I learned about adding things, right? And so I was just like, okay. So let's walk through that. Let's pick a standard. So this little light of mine
Yes.
and the key of F.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's
And
do
we're
it.
just going to talk about the chords here. So when we start with this little light of mine, we're in F major.
Okay.
I'm gonna let it shine. F7. That means
Okay.
there's an E flat in your F chord. Now B flat major. This little light of mine. I'm gonna do a G sharp diminished after that. F over C. I'm gonna let it shine. Back to the beginning. F. This little light of mine. I'm doing a B flat to go back in between it.
Okay.
I'm gonna F. Let it. C sharp diminished. Shine. D minor. Let it. I'm on B flat. Shine. Now G minor. Let it shine. C F over C. Let it shine. F.
All right,
So
let's
do
do
it
it.
real simple.
Let's do it.
So now you lead us into another way to play it, and then I may need you to call the chords for me.
Okay. So I'm gonna do like a little turnaround. So what you do there, you just start with your F chord, and you have a D in the bass, and then in your right hand it's C, F, and A, and all you're doing is going down half steps. Right, and you can add that D in there if you want to get that seventh sound. So it'll be C, F, and A, right, with D in the bass. Then go down to B, E, and G sharp, and then C in the bass, B flat, D.
That's how you do that.
D, yeah, yep, and then you're gonna drop that B flat, so it'll be A, D, E, right, and F in the bass. Yep, A, D, E flat, G. Right, so it'll be like,
Let me see if I got this.
yeah. There it is.
Okay.
There it is. So
thank you.
that's a new trick.
Now,
We
what's
only have like 1 minute
Oh,
left.
no.
I think.
What's the name of that one?
That's just just like a turnaround chord.
Okay. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's go all the way through it, and let's leave them on this.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Any last remarks before we?
Yes, we want to say. Hold on, I have to write it down before we play you out. Right?
Yes.
Comments.
Stay true to you.
Like I said, feel free to go over if you need it. We have a little time.
Yes. Okay. Let's do the remarks and then let's finish it out. Let's play them out. Okay.
Okay.
On some joy tip.
And I'll try to give you that chord progression. I see your internet keeps glitching, so it's pretty much just an F chord, and you're just going down in half steps.
Yes.
That's pretty much it. But I'll try to type it in there for you.
Yes. So I want to say, especially to the youth, and even if you're not a youth, but this is resonating with you, especially as a student of color or professional of color, go inside, right? Make sure that you're truly connected and make sure that you're thinking on what is important to me about my culture. What about my culture is something I'm proud of? And start from there. And as you use that as a guide, you will find that you know so much about your culture, and you can start to choose things that represent that you're proud of, and start to perform those things, start to express yourself in those ways. Your culture is so important because you are important. And so it's acknowledging that, and you don't have to change. You don't have to do a model that's been set for you by someone else, your art will speak for itself. So allow yourself to go through and express who you are and be proud of that and bold in that, and you will have support. Our generation is like, we are doing this.
Yes.
What do you have to say?
Yes, that's pretty much the same things. You know, stay true to you. Whatever it is that you want to do, keep going. Don't stop. You know, don't worry about the stereotypes. There's a lot of stereotypes that are brought on us, but don't worry about those. You know, I'm just so honored, you know, to be a Black classical musician and to be able to inspire the younger ones and let them know that it's possible. You know, so there's nothing that is that we can't do. And there's even a scripture that says what is impossible with man is possible with God. So as long as you just keep going, we have what it takes. Don't give up, and you can go for whatever it is. And there's no age limit. If you're 5 years old, go for it. If you're 50 years old, if you're 80 years old, you know, so just keep going and do not stop. And we love you, and thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to send you off on a good one.
Thank you, everyone. We had a lot of fun.